Hey, everybody, and welcome to the latest and greatest episode of the Fangirl Radio Show. I'm your host, Jessica Dwyer, and with me is my lovely and talented and slightly furry co host, Mr. Erik Smith.
Hello.
And we got a huge show tonight. Very excited to share with you my interview with Elijah Wood. I am so stoked about that. It was a great interview about his new film, Cooties. And we talk about as well his production company, Spectrovision, which specializes in independent horror films.
That's the best kind.
Exactly, and that's why he does it. So I'm very excited to have that on later in the show. Um, but like right now, what we should be talking about is the week in geek. And oh my, there was lots of things. Lots and lots of things. First off is well, we're just going to go right into Comic-Con. Comic-Con is next month in San Diego, and as is always this way, they wait until the last 3 weeks or so before the show to start announcing things. This time around, they actually started pretty early for them, and now we know quite a bit of what's going on already. Marvel will not be in attendance at
So
Comic-Con.
I've been hearing that for a long time, and it's just seems weird.
Well, they were saying they weren't going to really do anything last year either, and they wound up doing things. But I think this time it's legit because they haven't started filming Doctor Strange yet. They're right in the middle of Civil War. They may show up with something, but I doubt it. But Disney's putting all their eggs in the Star Wars basket.
Of course.
So Star Wars is going to be all over Comic-Con, and that includes The Force Awakens. They are going to be having a panel, and people are probably already camping out right now. I don't know how people do this, but it's the truth. They're going to be they're going to be having a panel in Hall H on Friday, probably the hottest ticket at Comic-Con this year, the Force Awakens panel on Friday. So what I'm excited about, though, which, not a big surprise, is the fact that Doctor Who is going to be there. I think I've talked about this previously, but they are going to be there on Thursday, which is not the usual thing. They usually are there on Sundays. Sundays, I think, has been now usurped by Supernatural. But Doctor Who is going to be there, and they're going to have Peter Capaldi in attendance, and basically everybody on the show is going to be there, including, I do believe, Missy.
Yay, Missy.
Yeah, so Michelle Gomez is going to be there too, I do believe. DC Comics is going to be their huge, huge presence because, they have to sell everybody on Superman versus Batman or Batman versus Superman or whatever you want to call it this week.
Batman loves Superman. Dawn of
Batman
Justice.
hearts Superman.
Yeah.
the I don't know, the afternoon delight of justice.
Batman frowny face.
But the other thing that's really cool is they've announced their preview night screenings, which is always a big thing. And this one is a pretty good lineup. Supergirl's going to be screened, even though it's already leaked online. Blind Spot, which is a new series with Jamie Alexander and Sullivan Stapleton. Containment is another series that's going to be shown. The pilot's going to be shown. The one that I'm curious about, that I want to know if it's as bad as I think it may be, I hope it's not, is Lucifer. And they're going to be showing that as well, the pilot for that.
I don't know much about what's going on with the show Lucifer. I know the comic. I haven't heard too much about the show.
If you go,
what kind of direction it's going in,
They've made it a police procedural, God help us all. And if you go on fangirlmag.com, you can look up Lucifer and you'll find the trailer as well as my thoughts on it. And I'm very sad about the trailer. I hope it's not. Yeah, a lot of people weren't very thrilled. The other big news, though, if we're on the devil kick, is Damien is going to be at Comic-Con, and that includes Glenn Mazzara and Bradley James, Barbara Hershey. They're all going to be there on, I can't remember what day. I think it's Thursday as well. Thursday's going to be a big TV day. But Damien, I'm really excited about. It's the Omen TV series, and it's
Mm-hmm.
done by the guys that are doing Bates Motel. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But the other big thing that's going to be ridiculous, and God, I think they're going to try and film, is Con Man with Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion. They're both going to be there. And yeah, so that's gonna be fun. So I'm really excited. That's some of the stuff that's been announced already. Um, uh, like I said, Friday is just gonna be ridiculous with uh, just all of the things with Star Wars. God help us, it's just gonna be ridiculous. But speaking of comics,
Yes.
John Bernthal's gonna be the Punisher. And they even released a redone Daredevil logo with bullet holes riddling it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that news came out the other day, actually, like yesterday, I believe, that John Bernthal, the man who has a huge movie career. A lot of people were focusing on Walking Dead, which, granted, that's what a lot of the comic book fans will know him from.
Mm-hmm.
But John Bernthal has like a huge film career. He's been in Fury. He's been in the Wolf of Wall Street, which he had a major role in and was amazing. And not to mention the Night at the Museum movies. Guy's got chops, and I'm very stoked. And if you got to see Mob City, I believe it was, it didn't last very long, but he was great in it. Just he's a great actor, and I think he's got the growly, intensity that is going to be like he is going to be the quintessential Punisher. I have a feeling.
Oh, he looks perfect
Oh God.
right off the bat.
Oh God, and
You know,
he just looks like it. He's got the build for it. He's got the attitude for it. I'm just excited. He just thrills me to death. I don't know who. A lot of people were wanting Thomas Jane back, but man, I'm Team Bernthal. He's just great. I was hoping he would get something that would like put him in the forefront. And what this is leading to is a Punisher series on Netflix for Marvel Phase 2 Netflix.
Phase 2 Netflix.
Yeah, and I'm really stoked. I think that's what this is. I was grinning like an idiot. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
He's a great choice.
He is.
I don't know how anybody could possibly argue that he's not a great choice.
Well, and there were people out there belly aching about, why couldn't Thomas Jane come back? He did that short film to really showcase him as the Punisher, and that's great. That's awesome. But I think what they're wanting to do with this lends itself to Bernthal. He, the Thomas Jane stuff, he was good, but it never quite felt right.
Mm-hmm.
And Warzone was great. It was a step in the right direction. I really enjoyed that movie. I liked it better than the Thomas Jane version.
See, I was going to say, I like Thomas Jane's performance better than Ray Stevenson's, but I like Warzone better as a movie.
Yeah, because Ray Stevenson just was more jolly than I think Frank Castle should be. If that makes
I don't remember that.
He seemed nicer. I think Frank Castle just needs to be a bastard, and he needs to be intense and a bastard, but he's gonna not hurt good people and he's gonna protect them, but he's not going to be lovable. He's broken, and I think. Yeah, well, I'll go back to Walking Dead just because it was a tour de force of him as Shane. I miss Shane. But that tells you how good he was as Shane, because you're not supposed to like Shane. But
Shane was a horrible person, but a compelling character.
But he was a great character, and he did so well with it. And he was. What was funny though was, as much of an asshole as Shane was, he was right. And in terms of how you're going to survive, because Rick has basically adopted the Shane philosophy when it comes to survival, and he knew better ahead of time. And that's the irony of Rick is now he's realizing, oh yeah, I guess he was right.
The only real problem I ever had with Shane was the attempted rape.
Oh yeah, but and you know, you turn back around to what Laurie did with playing, Lady Macbeth there, where, oh, look, blah, 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 like holding, dangling the carrot in front of him. And it's sort of like, well, I can't imagine why he got his wires crossed on that one. Not that rape is ever good or right. Don't get me wrong. Laurie was playing both sides of that fence in that episode, and you have to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, not in the episode where she was almost raped, but later on, she was doing it. It's like, what the hell, man? Just if you'd left him alone, if you just left him alone, he would still be alive, maybe. you know, and Rick wouldn't have on his conscience, I murdered my best friend in front of my son. you know. So anyway, Shane was a great character, and this kind of conversation that comes from talking about Shane is testament to Bernthal, and I think he's just going to nail this, and it's going to be amazing, and Jessica's going to be very, very happy between him and between all the awesome that is Daredevil, and then you got Jessica Jones coming up, which by the way they've changed it to not AKA Jessica Jones, it's just Jessica Jones now. They dropped the AKA from the title, which I always was sort of like, why anyway. But
well, I would assume that was a nod to the title of the original comic book, which was Alias.
Yeah.
Which, of course, they're not going to use because of the old Jennifer Garner show. So that was my thought, that was a nod. They couldn't say Alias, so they went with the AKA.
Yeah, that would probably make sense. But I think, and what I read online too, is it probably is more to go along the lines of the named series. Like you've got Daredevil, you've got Iron Fist, you've got Luke Cage. They're all going to be the title is going to be the name of the character. So
then her show should be, what is it? The Diamond, Blue Diamond. Her superhero name? I can't remember.
I can't remember. I just remember Jessica Jones. And that makes more sense because she's not going to be her hero persona. So that makes more sense. But yeah, I'm all about the Netflix stuff is just great. I'm so happy. And I'm even more convinced. By the way, this is kind of a offshoot. I'm rambling, but I just saw that Killer today, specifically as we record this, is doing a marathon of Blade the series.
I've seen that it's been on, and I haven't had a chance to watch it.
Yeah, TiVo that. I actually own the whole thing on DVD. I think I got it for $10 at actually a Big Lots. But I'm happy that they're doing that. That's smart. And hopefully that will inspire, the Blade series to actually happen. And then that will eventually beget Midnight Suns, which I talked about already on the show. Yes. So one other thing that you need to be watching that I promised the guys that make it that I will pimp this everywhere I possibly can, and that includes this show, also on our website, and everywhere and everyone I talk to that I know is a geek, I'm telling they need to watch this show. And it has to happen because I want them supported, and that is Tiny Plastic Men. I wrote a pretty comprehensive review of the show on fangirlmag.com. You can read it. I posted it, and then the guys that wrote it took it, the producers took it, and spread it out amongst the stars in the internet.
Nice.
Yeah, they were very happy with anybody watching the show, I guess. But so if you don't know what Tiny Plastic Men is, I'm going to give you the example. If you took Spaced, if you took Kids in the Hall, if you took the IT Crowd, and I said mescaline in the review, but any drug of choice, maybe ecstasy, spread a little weed in there too, with some vodka, you have Tiny Plastic Men. And it's not quite a sketch show. It's not quite a sitcom. It is its own thing, and it is amazing. And one of the lead characters, his name is October Ravensloft.
Well, of course.
He is a goth, time traveler, possible vampire, H.P. Lovecraft fan, who reads comics and loves Doctor Who and has a sonic screwdriver.
A character we've seen a million times.
Yes. Basically, they made my perfect man. Not gonna lie. And he's played by Mark Meer. Now, if you don't know the name Mark Meer, you may have heard of a little thing called Mass Effect. Have you heard of Mass Effect, Erik?
You know, I actually have.
Mm-hmm. You ever heard of a thing called Dragon's Age?
I think I've heard of that too.
Okay. The reason you've probably heard of those is they're some of the biggest video games of the last 10 years. And Mark Meer is the voice of Commander Shepard. He is also some of the voices in Dragon's Age. He's also one of the male voice, the lead male character in a video game that I actually wrote a review for called The Long Dark.
Mm-hmm.
And he is October Ravensloft. He also writes the show. He is also an improv comic genius. He's all over the place. He also cosplays his own characters. He shows up at cons as Commander Shepard. And he's going to be on the show. So coming soon to Fangirl Radio, we will be having Mark Meer on the show.
I think he should be on as
October Ravenloft. I don't know. That would be a very interesting episode because October is not quite normal. It would be.
So he would fit in perfectly.
He would fit in perfectly, actually. The show is so great. Cthulhu shows up. It exists in a universe where there is an elder god's temple in the town.
Doesn't every town have one?
It's set in.
That's where I worship.
And Mark Meer plays Cthulhu. He'll show up as Cthulhu within the show. It makes sense.
Blasphemy.
You have to watch the show. Alan Thicke cameos as a pseudo Judge Dredd.
Nice.
I can't do justice to it. You have to watch the show. Mark Meer's wife is another character in it named, her name's Belinda, but in the show she plays for whatever reason, British co-boss of the toy company. She's the daughter of she's also a voiceover artist too, and she's been in all of those video games as well. It's just such a hugely pedigreed geek show. On top of that, Trauma is all over this, including Lloyd Kaufman's in an episode. Toxic Avengers in an episode. I can't do justice to how cool it is. And if you're a horror fan, a sci-fi geek, a Doctor Who geek, just a geek in general, you need to watch it. And it's funny. Even the non-geek humor in it is hilarious because these guys are nuts. And they're improv comics, so they're like boom, 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 boom. They're coming at you. So I can't say enough about Tiny Plastic Men. You've got to watch it. It's so good. The only problem is right now, Hulu, there's 3 seasons of the show so far, and they're making more, hopefully. And that's kind of why I'm pimping this, too, because I want a 4th season of this. But season 3 seems to be sort of jacked up on Hulu. They start with episode 5, and there's only like 4 episodes, if that, of season 3 on there right now. So it's
like Fox airing Firefly.
I know. At least you get the first 2 seasons in correct order. But yeah, it's the world that this show exists in is just insane. There's a Latvonia, which is this, I think that's the name of the country, embassy, who has a dictator who's basically Dr. Doom. Mm-hmm. And I think his name's Otto von Chaos or something like that. And there's other superhero characters in there that are just hilarious. And there's cartoons and there's these sketches in between that sort of go along with the episode itself. It's very hilarious and very weird and awesome. So go watch it. Tiny Plastic Men on Hulu. It's so good. And yes, Mark Meer will be on the show. He said he'd do it. I talked to him. Ha ha ha. So he's going to be on later. Hopefully the next couple of weeks. So we'll let you know as soon as that happens.
Cool.
And suddenly I have Abed. So TV recap for the week. There was 3 really big important things that happened on television. Number 1 was Hannibal came back. Hallelujah, praise God. Thank you, Jesus. Season 3 of Hannibal. And I gotta tell you, this first episode, if that's going to be the set for the rest of the season, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle it. There was so much extreme, beautiful, insane things happening in this episode. It was co-written by Brian Fuller, which makes sense. This season, as with previous seasons, all the episodes are going to be, almost all of the episodes, mind you, are going to be the first half of the season, I guess, are going to be named after Italian dishes. And then, because previous seasons we had different countries' dishes as the names. Then what's going to happen is in the middle of the season, we're going to switch to Red Dragon.
Yeah.
And that's when all the things are going to be named after, I guess, stanzas from the poem. And I am ridiculously excited because the Great Red Dragon episode where all of this goes down, I'm assuming, is going to be directed by Neil Marshall. And that makes me happy. But the first episode of this season was called Antipasto. And as Brian Fuller stated, this season's going to have a lot to do with slugs, which makes me nauseous because slugs are the thing that I cannot stand. I will take salt to all of them. I will salt them to death, and I will laugh as I do so. So Antipasto, in that episode, we find out that Hannibal and Bedelia are in Italy, which we knew, and we find out through flashback how everything occurred to have Bedelia going with him. And Bedelia is kind of it's sort of the fall. It's kind of interesting how they heavily hint at Dr. Lecter being the equivalent of Lucifer, and you're watching Bedelia lose her soul to his lifestyle and what he does. And also through flashbacks, we get to see Eddie Izzard back as Dr. Abel Gideon, and who's slowly having to eat himself. I can't begin to tell you, Eric, how much you should be watching this show. It's so beautiful and so well written and so well acted. So Dr. Gideon isn't going out quietly. He's talking to Hannibal and telling him how he can't wait to see this happen to Hannibal, where he's going to be the main course, where he's going to be fed upon by the others when he's captured. And he's basically eaten both legs at this point, and I think it's his right arm. And there's this horrifying scene where you go into Hannibal's sort of pantry, and Gideon is having to see I think it's his arm, being devoured by the slugs in this like terrarium that Hannibal's got with the slugs. And it's so disturbing. Hannibal tells him that, the slugs take on the flavor of whatever they're eating, and you're delicious. Because he's been feeding him these things that have been seasoned with like rosemary and things like that to make so it's like a double meal in one way, because his arm is feeding the slugs that Hannibal is going to eat as escargot, and he's feeding the slugs to Gideon too at dinner as he's keeping him alive, but he's slowly dying because he knows it. It's just so messed up and well acted, and I'm amazed this is on network television. But you also find out through flashbacks what happened with Bedelia and the supposed attack that happened with her. They've hinted out that she was attacked by a patient, and you find out that in reality it seems like she attacked the patient, and you find her pulling her own arm out of his mouth. Like she killed him by shoving her fist down his throat.
Nice.
And
good family fun.
Well, and that, by the way, is Gillian Anderson, who is a goddess in this. I think she's the only one that could really equal Mads Mikkelsen in the just cold beauty aspect of everything. She's his equal, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So all kinds of things happen, and you find out how Dr. Hannibal Lecter became Dr. Fell, and his wife, who is being, they're not actually married. The bride of Hannibal is how they were advertising it, but she's pretending to be his wife. And this was an all Hannibal and Bedelia. There was no talking about Will Graham or any of the others, Jack Crawford, anybody, Alana Bloom. This was all about Hannibal and Bedelia. And it was all set in Italy, and I think they were also in Paris as well, Paris, France. So great stuff. And I didn't even realize this until just a little while ago, because there's no actual scene yet with this. But the patient that Bedelia murdered apparently was Zachary Quinto.
Ah.
So yeah, next episode is going to be called Primavera. Right. And that is where we, I believe, find out what happened after the slaughter fest that happened at Hannibal's house with Will and Alana and Jack. So, it's so good. It's so good. And that's tomorrow night. So as of this airing, it's tonight. And don't miss it. The only thing that sucks is it's on at like 10 o'clock. But you really couldn't play this any earlier than that on network TV, I don't think.
No.
But as I said, later on this season, Red Dragon happens, and I think it all like is encompassed. That whole storyline happens this season, because I saw a post by Richard Armitage, who's playing Francis Dollarhide, that he wrapped up filming. So I think it's all this season. And you know what that means? What happened after Red Dragon?
I lost interest in the movies because they got rid of Brian Cox. No.
Oh, Erik, that.
Kidding.
Bad.
Silence of the sheep.
Bad Erik.
No. Brian Cox is my Hannibal.
You're a horrible person. But yes, if we get a fourth season, Silence of the Lambs, and that means that we will have a Clarice Starling. And it was interesting because I asked Brian Fuller who he wanted to play Clarice Starling, if he had his druthers of actresses, and without hesitation, just boom, Ellen Page. And I looked at him and I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. He's like, I know. This is his,
you don't have to tell me.
You don't have to tell me. I am the man making this amazing show. So yes. So what we were taking from this: slugs, Italian dishes. Eddie Izzard is the god, and Neil Marshall is going to be directing the first part of the Red Dragon stuff. So you should be watching this show. I believe all the episodes are up on Amazon Prime. And I don't know if previous seasons are up on Hulu, but I know that first and second seasons are up on Amazon Prime. So go forth. And if you're worried about money and paying for Amazon Prime, know that you can get a 30-day free trial, and you can marathon all 2 seasons in 30 days. Easily. Telling you. So Game of Thrones. Massive spoilers herein. Be prepared. If you haven't watched it yet, then you should just stop listening right now, fast forward or whatever, and we will get to Elijah Wood. But Game of Thrones happened. Huge episode. I'm amazed because I didn't realize we were almost done with this season already. There's only one episode left. The finale is this weekend. And man, they've set it up because this episode was called The Dance of Dragons. And that is because of twofold reasons. One, Shireen, I believe is her name. She is Stannis' daughter, and she's reading the Dance of Dragons story. Well, that's one part of the reason why this is called that. The second part is there's mother effing dragons in this episode.
Dragons.
Finally dragons. They're back. But the two things I took away from this, and one is the subplot. Firstly, Dorne, they've completely wasted that entire subplot. No one cares anymore about Dorne. Thank you for selling my slutty prince's name with this horrible second-rate storyline that you're having in Dorne. No one cares. We're not even going to talk about it. The two major things here is the fact that this episode had to deal really with parents and their love and faith in their children. And Stannis really let down his child in a massive way, and that is allowing Melisandre to burn her to death. They burned to death a 10 or 11-year-old girl in this episode. Mm-hmm. They don't really show it, but you get to hear it. You get to feel it in your gut that this is what happened. And a lot of people are like, oh, they've crossed the line. They've crossed the line with this show. No, they really didn't. This kind of horrible crap happened in medieval times. We know horrible things happen in Game of Thrones. In the grand scheme of things, this is par for the course with the show. Mm-hmm. And they kind of set this up with that whole scene where Stannis tells her, you've always been my daughter. I love you. Everyone wanted to give up on you, but I kept you with me. And it plays a part in showing just how far he's willing to go to win. And it's a horrifying scene. And her mother, who has not really been very supportive of her daughter and has already told Melisandre, oh, the Lord of Light, I will do anything for him. No, when she hears her daughter screaming for her life as she's dying, that doesn't really play, she doesn't go with the Lord of Light anymore. She's trying to run and save her daughter, and it's too late. And she realizes that. It's a horrifying scene. But they did this kind of crap on Sons of Anarchy. Mm-hmm. Nobody remember Tig's daughter? Nobody remember all of that horrible shit that happened there? It was bad. The other part of this where I'm talking about the fact that it has to do with a mother's or a parent's faith and love in their child is Daenerys is attacked by the Sons of the Harpy. And it's a battle royale. People are being slaughtered right and left. It happens in the gaming pit, and you think it's over because they're surrounded. And Daenerys pretty much assumes it's over too. She's ready to die. She's like, okay, well, we're done. So she's standing there and she closes her eyes, and you kind of see her hesitate for a moment, and she looks up and closes her eyes. And I'm thinking, come on, dragon. Come on, dragon. Come on, dragon. And boom, man, big old black is back. Drogon, who is the most badass of her three dragons, shows up and in one of the most awesome scenes in the show takes out all of these Sons of the Harpies, just fries them right and left, is eating them, tearing them in half. It's exactly what a dragon attack should look like. And it is brilliant. And Drogon is getting hurt, though, because they're throwing spears at him. and they're trying to stop him. And so Daenerys leaves behind Tyrion, she leaves behind Ser Jorah, she leaves behind everybody, goes to her dragon, who recognizes her, pets him, climbs on his back, and flies away. So we finally get to see a dragon rider. And
that's a different franchise.
And it's it's not in Pern. But it's a great scene, and it's a nice balance to the two, where a mother who has faith and love in her child because she is the mother of dragons in this. So the other part of this too is the title Dance of Dragons. Not only do I see that scene as fitting to that because you dance with a dragon, you're going to die, but it's also, you've got Daenerys and her dragons, and then you have way over here trying to take the throne as well. You have Melisandre, who I would call her a dragon in this scenario because what did she do? She burned to death a child with her own fire. And to me, that fits. So it's just a great episode, and has two of the most really gut-grabbing scenes, where most horrifying scene and a scene that just is just amazing with that.
Well, unfortunately, when it comes to Game of Thrones, I should change my name to Jon Snow because I know nothing.
I know. I can't believe it. I can't believe it, Eric. I really know. This is your show, if any show, really. But the one show that we both watched and blew it out of the park with their finale was iZombie. And holy crap, I told you when I saw that Rob Thomas was the one that was writing this puppy, that some massive stuff was going to go down, and it did not disappoint. God, I think they killed off half the cast.
But they brought some of them back to life.
I know.
Literal life, not zombie half-life.
I know. I loved what Liv did because it was a weapon to one and a saving grace to another, and that was just amazing. What was the best way you could get back at Blaine? Yeah, make him human again. Just so great. Just a great episode all the way around. It was a good two-parter, really, with Dead Rat, Live Rat, Brown White, White Rat, and they've lost all their stuff to test with. You've got a new villain set up really well with, oh God, I can never remember his name.
Steven Weber?
Thank you, Steven Weber. So he's like your new Blaine, I guess.
Max Rager.
Yeah, I can totally see Blaine going to Max Rager's offices and asking for a job. I can totally see that happening. God help them if those two who join forces, because they're just going to be done, and they're perfect together. It was a great episode. It did everything that a season finale should do, and they better damn well be coming back, which I know they are.
Well, they had a little tease.
Oh man, so good, so good. And I'm watching, and Liv's brother shows up, and I'm just like, no, get near that. It's gonna blow up. Oh,
just the Suzuki's trying to light the lighter. Don't do it.
So what was your favorite parts of that episode?
I really wish Major had died.
You knew that wasn't happening.
Just because, I mean, and I like the character, but I like that kind of storytelling where they're willing to kill off a character and keep them killed off. But I did love his rampage.
I loved their commissary during that.
Just going in there and wiping everybody out.
Oh, it was perfect, and I love that he got to use his grenade.
Yes.
Come back from this.
I do like his reaction to what Liv did.
Oh, it made sense.
Basically calling her selfish. I missed Peyton.
Oh, yeah. What happened to her? They kind of like let her go. That she's just gone now, I guess.
Well, I assume you watched the end of last week's episode.
Well, yeah, she went off. Okay. Yeah, I know that. No, go ahead.
She hasn't been in every episode the whole season, so I assume she'll be back. She'll come to terms with, well, come to terms or not with what she learned, and
Or she'll end up dating Blaine.
oh, I like her with Ravi.
I could totally see her dating Blaine. I can totally see that happening.
She'll go to work for Max Rager. And
she could be their lawyer.
She'll be their corporate lawyer.
She'll be their corporate lawyer. I think we just figured out the next season of the show. I know, with this new head of security, he's pretty cute.
Get Rob Thomas on the phone. I want to throw some ideas at him.
Exactly. Speaking of crazy outbreaks of zombies, Cooties. Cooties! We're still infected with Cooties, and this week is our second part of our two-part Cooties infestation, and that means Elijah Wood, who I've had the pleasure of talking to, and if you want to see more Cooties, catch more Cooties, be sure to pick up the next issue of Horror Hound that will be on stands, I think, in the next couple of weeks, with my Cooties coverage in there. But Elijah Wood, awesome dude. If you don't know who he is, you've been living under a rock for the last how many years? 10? Is that how long it's been with Lord of the Rings? And even
he was in Lord of the Rings?
Really? I didn't know that. Huh? Where did that come from?
I thought he got his start in the movie Maniac.
Oh, God, that was good. So I'm having flashbacks to Maniac, which you need to see if you haven't seen. But Elijah Wood's been around way before Lord of the Rings. He started as a child actor, and he has really come into his own. And he has as I said, a production company called Spectre Vision that he started with some friends of his that wanted more horror movies that they wanted to see. Independent, oddball, cool horror films that major studios might not give a chance to. And so Spectre Vision was born, and they have done some amazing stuff, one of which was A Girl Walks Home Alone, and which never probably would have seen the light of day without help from these guys, because it's such a different take on the vampire genre. Really good stuff. And they also have another movie coming out about hippie acid dropping werewolves that,
another one of those.
Yeah, you're just going to have to listen to the interview because we talk about that. They've got some really good stuff. And then I think the other one we talk about is Greasy Strangler. That's the name of the movie. The Greasy Strangler. Wonder what that's about. Peace talks with Russia. Yeah. So with that, here comes our interview with Elijah Wood. Be sure to join us next week. And here comes Elijah Wood.
Yeah, hi, Jessica. Hi.
Hi, Elijah. How are you?
I'm well. Wow, that was bright. I'm well. Good morning.
So I thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me on this movie. I got to see it, actually. Lionsgate sent me a screener link to it, and I got to watch it, which was awesome.
Oh, that's great. Awesome.
And I got to tell you, I love the movie. It was so phenomenal, and I can't believe Lee Winnell. I actually talked to him yesterday, and he cracked me up the entire film.
Isn't he a revelation? He's a total revelation in that movie. He's my favorite.
He was mine too, and I think he was surprised by that. I'm like, when you out funny Rainn Wilson, that's saying something.
It's really great. And, my relationship with Lee was I knew him as a writer. And he's definitely been an actor in some of the films that he's written, but he'd never really played a character quite like this. And it was just such an awesome surprise. He's so funny. I mean, he walks away with so many of the scenes. It's really great.
Well, it was so funny too because he was talking about Doug and he goes, "Yeah, I think there's a little bit of Jeffrey Dahmer in there because I really think he's thought about killing people, but he's not done it yet." I'm like, dude, you put some serious thought.
Yeah, there's definitely something slightly unhinged about the character internally, and he certainly plays it that way. That's really funny.
When he described Jeffrey Dahmer into there, I was like, oh, that's okay.
Right. That's who we want teaching our children.
Yes, exactly. Is he a shop teacher? I don't know. It's kind of wrong. So, I've got quite a few questions here, so let me pick your brain. Okay,
go for it.
What caught your interest about Cooties? And just as an aside, do you think you should avoid going into schools now, thanks to like this and the faculty? You really don't have a lot of luck with them.
It's true. Yeah, I know. It's funny. Somebody was saying that this is like my faculty character grown up in substitute teaching. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea, the idea behind it was an internal idea. So I've got this production company, Spectavision, with my producing partners Josh Waller and Daniel Noah, and it was an idea that Josh had rather. He just kind of had this idea about setting a zombie-like virus in a school wherein the children contract the virus, but it only affects children who haven't gone through puberty. And we're like, oh my God, that's so brilliant, because it's sort of a play on the notion of Cooties. And we loved the idea, and we wanted to kind of we had this notion that we were going to take it really seriously and make this kind of very serious, sort of fucked up, scary horror film with this premise. And then it got communicated to Lee Whannell through a mutual friend, this idea, and Lee freaked out, and then came to us and said, I want to write this, and it's a comedy. And we're like, all right, it is a comedy, of course, it's called Cooties. But we couldn't believe that there hadn't been an exploitation movie in the 70s or 80s called Cooties, that had just sort of reappropriated the notion of Cooties and turned it into a horror film. So we were shocked that we were the first to have done it. But that was the gestation of it. That's sort of how it happened. And then he loved the idea so much that he wanted to co-write it with his friend Ian Brennan, who's a co-creator of Glee. So we were like, wow, this is what a thrill to have this ridiculous horror comedy written by, the creator of Saw and Glee. And that's how Cooties was born.
Well, and it seems fitting that you combine Glee with Saw and you would get this film. It just kind of is that messed up and awesome.
Totally.
So, and I kind of like the fact that even with the poster, with the lollipop poster that I saw, and just, it has a real retro 80s feel. Like, I kind of got like this whole Killer Clowns from Outer Space or Critters vibe from it, and I really, really love that part of it, Like, it really felt like that.
Cool. That's awesome.
And
it was really important for us, I think, to maintain. We were really keen on making sure that the horror elements were on equal par with the comedic elements. It tends to be that horror comedies skew one way or the other, and more often than not, they tend to skew towards comedy. Mm-hmm. And so it was really important to us, tonally, throughout the shooting of the film, to make sure that the scares and the kind of horror elements, when it becomes that, are equally as intense as their comedy counterparts. And it feels like we've succeeded. I mean, it's very much a comedy, but I feel like those when it gets scary, and it proceeds with that from a semi-serious tone. So I couldn't be happier with sort of how the balance of that, which is not easy. It's not easy when you've got the script that we had and the incredibly brilliant comedic that they had sort of facilitating it. It's really easy to sort of just keep things in a really comedic zone. But it was, I think the balance is relatively strong.
Well, and there was one thing that Lee made a comment about that I didn't even think about, because you did such a good job keeping it balanced, was people were worried about the violence in schools aspect and all of that, and there was a definite thing of keeping guns out of this, and I didn't even think about that.
Totally. And I think it was always really important to us too that because eventually, there are a few casualties amongst the children in this, that we earn those things, and not be too flippant about it. I mean, it's a funny thing when you have a movie where the villains are children, and even though they're no longer those kids, effectively like zombies, killing them is still a serious thing, and we took that seriously. But we also had to deliver on that because, in a way, the movie makes that promise. So, obviously, not having guns in the school, we were really conscious of violence, of school violence, and that was really important to us. But we were also really conscious of how we handled violence towards children, and how, it was played for fun and for laughs, and as much as it is a real thing that we're having to do. But also, getting to the point where we don't see them as kids anymore was really important to make that distinction, so that the killing of them or the harming of them becomes heroic, and they're not kids. So that was important to us, because we certainly didn't want to make an offensive movie, but we wanted to deliver on that promise too, and I think that was a fine balance as well.
Well, and the thing that brought that up was I was thinking in that one scene with the minivan that we were going to have a cootie baby, and I thought, oh my God, are they really going to go there? And you didn't, but I was like, oh, I was half disappointed and half thank God they didn't go there.
Yeah, I mean, what you effectively hear off camera is that is what's happening, but we don't see it.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of our way of dealing with it. But the other important, I think there's a really important, like a shifting moment when Rainn Wilson takes the fire extinguisher to the kid's head. And there's that moment where everyone sort of realizes, it's initially, people laughed at the screening at the Stanley Film Festival and kind of cheered, but then they realized, like, oh shit, this is actually serious. The adults are realizing the implications of what they have to do to get out of here. And it's played like, it's actually played as a serious moment. And it was important that we do that to be able to earn everything that happens at the end of the film. So that was really strategic in that regard, I think.
Yeah, it was very well planned out. I really was pleased with how that all flowed. You did great.
Oh, thanks.
The one thing I really liked too was I liked the different way you kind of spun the characters, because at the beginning it felt like, it was going to be the typical, the jock's the jerk and he's not going to make it, and this guy's going to be the hero. But you completely flipped that on the head, and you really made this, and it's all part of, like you and Rainn and Lee and everyone, you guys did such a great job with these characters, and it gave them a new level.
Thank you. And it was really important, strong characters too. It was really, really important to Lee and Ian that they be well-rounded characters, that they're not just archetypes. And in fact, what they did is exactly what you're saying. They sort of, these characters are introduced and you think they're one thing. They're sort of, they're the archetypes as they're introduced, but they change throughout the course of the film, and their roles kind of get shifted and flipped in their head. And it was important that the character development be a major part of the storytelling, and that you care about these characters, and that they have somewhere to go, and they all do. There's a sort of change that occurs for all of the characters throughout the course of the film, and it grounds the film, I think, and makes it far more interesting than just watching a bunch of teachers without a connection to them in the same scenario.
Oh, I thought it was wonderful how it worked out, and you guys just blew it away. So, and part of this, I think, when I was talking to Lee, he said that there was a table read that sort of gelled everyone together. And for people that don't know what those are, or haven't experienced that, or seen a video of that happening, can you talk about how that works for a film, and especially one like this?
Sure.
Because to me, it almost sounds like it would be like a D&D game, which sounds totally geeky, but at the same time, you kind of have to act it out while you're at a table read and kind of imagine all of this going on.
Yeah, and we didn't have the luxury of any rehearsal time. So effectively, the first time that any of us heard the script aloud was during this table read. And effectively, what a table read is it's really the first time that you get a group of the actors, the director, some of the key individuals on the film around a table to hear the script read aloud. To hear it for its pace, to hear for its tone, how it gels and how it comes across. And it's also just a great way for everybody to just get it out into the air, like hear it, feel it. You've got your own ideas. Oftentimes it's all in your head, so it's just nice to get it on its feet. And for this particular film, we didn't have any rehearsal at all, so we did that table read on the Friday, and we were shooting on Monday. So it was essential, not only for us to get a sense of how the movie was going to play and what we had, but also for everyone to meet each other and to kind of act as almost like a jump start for the journey that we were all going to take, and for the 4 weeks or whatever that we were going to be at the school together. But it was incredible. I think it was so much fun. It played really funny. We all connected really quickly, sort of miraculously, because you never know how those things are going to go. And I remember leaving the table read with just this incredible enthusiasm and excitement to start work on Monday, because I immediately loved everybody, and everybody kind of loved each other, and we were all equally excited about taking part in this and seeing it come to life. And part of that was just hearing it and being so enthusiastic about how the whole thing kind of comes together. So, yeah, our table read was essential. It felt like it was like our booster rocket to starting the movie.
Well, and then kind of feeding into that, you actually filmed this at a school, except for probably the set pieces.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, you're in a event in certain scenes, but how was that? I mean, you're stuck in this place with these people, so you had to get along really well. But how was that to film at, and what were some of the challenges of filming in an actual school for this movie?
It was great. It was a total luxury, because we were in one place for 4 weeks, so it kind of felt like summer camp. We would go to the same location every day for 4 weeks, and there weren't really any challenges, because it was off season for them. It was during the summer, so the school was out for summer. So we had the run of the whole school, and so the environment was totally real. It was wonderful for set dressing, because they had a really great school to decorate and dress properly, and it's a really good. The school itself is a really great old classic school in the way that you would imagine a typical American school to be. So it was great. There weren't a ton of challenges. It just ended up being this like real summer camp feel for everybody. Nice. It was a blast.
So, because I know I'm going to lose you here in probably a couple minutes, but I wanted to talk to you about SpectreVision, because I think a lot of people may be surprised that you're such a large fan of horror. You love horror films, and I love talking to you about Maniac a couple of years ago, and hearing you talk about giallo cinema and everything. And at that time, you were just working on A Girl Walks Home Alone, and I was wanting you to talk about, if you could, about SpectreVision and what kind of inspired you to be such a horror fan, and then to go into doing SpectreVision with this, because it seems like that's what your bread and butter is with that.
Yeah, I suppose it came from a place of loving the genre and genre cinema in general. And I'd always wanted to produce something that I'd been thinking about for quite some time, to be a part of the inception of a film and seeing it through to getting made, and supporting filmmakers and supporting kinds of films that I love and feel should be seen. So that's kind of where it started. And then I met my friends Josh and Daniel, who are Daniel's a writer and Josh is a director, and we met on another entirely different project. And we realized that we had a shared mutual love of horror films, and particularly horror films that we felt at the time weren't being made regularly in the U.S. Films that kind of took the subject matter seriously, films that didn't rely solely on the exploitable elements, but more on character and story, where in some ways if you removed the horror elements, you'd still have a compelling story. These were things that we kind of bonded on. And that was sort of it. I mentioned that I'd want to start a production company. I said, why don't we start a horror company and make these kinds of movies and support these sort of filmmakers that we love? And that was really how it started. And that was, it was almost 5 years ago. And it's been it's been incredible. It's been an amazing outlet for the three of us to be in that genre world. Many of the people in that world are our friends. It's very much a community. And so a lot of the times we feel like we're working with or supporting our friends. And it's growing sort of steadily, which is incredible. And we're, making wildly different movies. I suppose Girl Walks Home Alone and Cooties have very little in common, and there's something really exciting about that. The fact that it could be an audience for both of those movies, and yet they're so different, is really exciting.
That's wonderful.
And we're currently in production on a movie called The Greasy Strangler.
I love that title, by the way.
Oh, man, and it's so great and so wrong, and it'll be so funny. It's a movie about a greasy strangler serial killer, but it's really about a father and a son who still live together. It's very odd and difficult to describe, but I'm very excited about it. It's a filmmaker, Jim Hosking, who has a great deal of fans for a long time, and people have been wanting him to make his first feature, so we're terribly proud to be a part of supporting him on this.
There was another one I read about, too, that seemed like one of in that kind of vein called Bad Vibes.
Oh, Bad Vibes. Bad Vibes is our it's our psychedelic werewolf movie. It's about werewolf. It's about sort of like the lichen, if it were spread as like a sexually transmitted disease.
Oh my God.
Amongst hippies in the late 1960s, whose sole mission, which once they're turned and they become werewolves, is to kill squares. And Ariel Pink is providing the soundtrack, so all of the music, which will be evocative. Like, there's bands within the context of the film, so he's writing all the music for this band, very much in that sort of 60s, late 60s, early 70s style. We're really excited about that.
That just makes me stupidly happy. Just what you've described.
Me too. I concur.
I'm so happy. Well, Elijah, thank you so much. I mean, this is just great, and thank you for doing what you're doing with independent horror, because that's just awesome,
thank you,
man. That's just great. So, thank you so much for
we're having a lot of fun.
Oh man, you're giving us a lot of fun too with this, especially with this movie. I was laughing my ass off watching this.
Oh, great. Awesome.